So in this video, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the new Magic Poser app. And I'm going to just speak really fluidly. I've actually tried to make this video like 3-4 different times, but I'm just going to speak straight to you guys. When you first open it, of course, you're going to get, some of the new user like tutorial prompts, and you even can go back to tutorials right here if you ever want to skip it or come back to it. And then you'll be greeted actually when you actually download the app and finally get through the tutorial with this page of your files. Now, I'm not sure what it's going to look like for you, but I can say that it's a pretty easy section to be a part of. And in fact, it's similar to the community page with just a little minor differences. This is where you'll come back to every time to come to your actual scenes. You have scenes stored locally on your device, but you also can have scenes stored on the cloud. Now, I have a beta version. I've been using the beta version of this app, and you'll see that some of my scenes actually still look backwards. You won't probably have this experience at all. This is just some of the files that I uploaded had something wrong with them. So I'm going to re-upload some of my stuff eventually to the cloud. But here's my local, and this is usually where I stay quite a bit. But I'll just show you some of these other parts. Here's the community page, where you can then see tons of other people's scenes. In fact, they're organized by these features on the top, scenes where the objects are standing. In fact, whenever you finish a scene, you can actually export it into the cloud and then categorize it yourself under one of these. You'll see props. Gee, so this one looks really cool. This one with all the vegetation, all the green. You can see that there's some other people that get really in the stuff that they create. Here's a bus stop. I actually would be interested in the scene. And you can actually open these scenes and then save it to your files, and you go back to the main page and then be able to see it in your local scenes. So I might open that one up a little bit later. After you go through the community, here's your tutorials page, and then here is the library. So this is based on whether you have the free, pro, or master version of the app. I have the master version of the app, so you'll actually be able to see that I have full access to all of these different stuff. So if there's ever anything that you want to see in one of these videos in the future, feel free to go ahead and just ask in the comments below. I'd be happy to do it. And then here's, of course, the settings of your account. Let's go back and let's open up a scene. Let's go ahead and create actually we'll open up a scene that's just like a new scene. Okay, so here is my model, or I'm just going to keep calling him a character. And there's also the lighting options too. You'll notice that the tools on the bottom change based on what you tap on. If you tap somewhere outside of the object or character, then they go back to the original UI. You'll see that the dots still show up there. I'm not sure if they're going to change that where the dots don't show up, but if you ever want to get rid of the dots, all you have to do is tap on something that's not a model, and then it'll disappear. And then I just tapped away again. That's what you saw right there, as I tapped on this and then tapped away so that it would go away. What's cool here is once you finish a scene, you actually can utilize some of these either to export or even adjust your scene before you export it as an image, like a 2D image or a 3D scene. So I'm going to go through these real briefly so you can see that you can adjust and make changes here. So here I've got the time of day. I can adjust it. I can reset it as well to 12 o'clock noon. And then I can also change the lighting strength. I'll just hit reset on that. I can get rid of the ground. I can change the color of the ground. This is one I wish that they had a reset for, but thankfully you can just type it in if you really need to. Oh, look at that pink. Okay, and then you can change some of the XYZ axis. So you can put a grid in the sky. You can put a grid different directions. Sometimes I can imagine that would get really messy if you're going to trace over it for artwork. You can do different directions for the looking at the scene. Okay, and then you can change the perspective. I originally got this app because it allows you to do like a isometric view for like video games. So if you ever wanted to make a video game, you can make objects and scenes and then trace it and then pixelate them if it's going to be a 2D game. You can export these models and then put them into Blender. You can export them as an OBJ file if you are a 3D modeler. So pretty cool stuff. And you can save camera views. So if you like this view, I can add a camera view right there. Let's say I want to do another one and add it like that. And then I can go back in between each object or each one by just tapping right in the middle. So you saw me there trying to change the name of it, and that was actually by accident. So I'm just going to go back to the front, zoom out, And that's enough about the views. Here's layers. So you can actually tap on a object and it will highlight the layer, or if you want, you can tap on the layer and it will highlight the object. And you can even group these objects together, and then I can actually move everything together, which is actually really nice. Let's go ahead and open up that group and let's ungroup it. And you can rename stuff. So this renaming, it becomes really, really valuable if you're gonna create a big scene. I intend to make tons of huge scenes, and so renaming stuff is actually really useful for me. Let's go ahead and go to the export. Look at that. So now we can export it in a JPEG or a high resolution image. I think the medium is going to be a JPEG, the high is going to be like a PNG. I can hit export, and then I can get some tools or some web UI here, and I can just save it. I can send it to a friend. I can airdrop it. So again, if I'm doing some work on maybe Clip Studio Paint or some sort of Photoshop, I can export it. I can also export it to Blender. Let's say I wanted to do a 3D object. There we have it. You have either an OBJ file, which is the standard file type, I think it comes with no textures. So if you're going to export, just understand you have to paint or create your own textures for whatever you're exporting in OBJ. But for the Magic Poser, everything stays specific for Magic Poser. So this is really great if you're going to send it to another device that uses Magic Poser, like a phone or Android. But using the cloud typically is going to solve that for you. Magic Poser files, though, are nice in case you want it to be compatible for maybe selling models. This is where I think it's really exciting to use Magic Poser, because you can potentially sell your scenes for other people to use. So let's say you have a community of people, let's say maybe on a YouTube channel like me, and you want to be able to offer scenes, but you've spent a lot of time and effort. If you build a great following, you can then create your own scenes and then sell them. Maybe 99 cents, 30 bucks, whatever, or even have a Patreon account where people subscribe, and then they get access to your scenes for free or a discount, some sort of tiered value. So, it's up to you, of course. Magic Poser, I don't think they intended net people to sell it, but they're open for it. There's some really great developers behind this app, and it's really exciting. So I just hit on the X to get rid of those. I can get a shortcut to doing the photo and the objects by clicking on the camera. I also can move and navigate by hitting that rectangle, or sorry, the square in the box, and a cube, that's what it is, cube in the top right hand corner. So in case you're in an awkward position and nothing's locked down and you're worried about moving something and messing it up, you can always hit that corner right in the top right hand corner, the cube right in the top right hand corner, so that you can be able to navigate and see. If I tap on this will move automatically, and maybe I didn't mean to do it, I meant to rotate. Well, that's where that cube becomes really useful. Now what's nice here is whenever you tap on an object, prop or geometric shape, whatever it is, there's a specific set of tools on the bottom for that object you've tapped, and I'm going to go through them real quick. Now I can move stuff on the X and Y axis. You can tap on the numbers or the specific axis you want to move it on. If you tap on it again while it's highlighted, a number pad will show up, so you can type in a specific space. Let's say you want it to reset to 0. Now it's on the 0 for the blue Z axis. If I want it to be on 0 here, I just delete everything. Now it's clipped into the ground. And if I want to hit 0 there, and then voila, easy way to get back. Now on the far right hand side, you can actually hit the drop button to reset to the ground, which is nice. You can do that for objects. You can't do it for grouped objects though. So if you have a group of objects or models, it's not going to clip or drop back to the ground because there's a lot of variables in there. Though maybe the devs might be able to make that available in the future. And then I can hit the rotate tool and I can rotate it amongst the X, the Y plane. Now it's interesting, I don't know exactly when the devs made this, why that's the X plane or the Y plane, why they did it instead of having it go up and down. But I guess it's different for rotating. Then there is the X plane, and then the Z plane right here. Now, if you'll notice, there's a little settings on the top left-hand corner of this window that you can tap, and you can get more specific. You can use a local access. This is actually neat because you notice the axis just changed on us based on the positioning of this object. And so now the settings are all different. So you'll notice that the axis looks more appropriate. I would imagine the green being to up and down. So either way, you can change the axis. You can also change it back. I usually like it on this axis, and then there you go. And then if you want, you can actually you notice how this one doesn't have any numbers. I think the devs should change it back, change it to where there's just numbers showing right here, because then you can actually edit it, just the other spaces, and then voila, look at that. Now it's on the 0 for that. I can go ahead and hit 0 for this, and then I can also hit 0 for this. And now it's actually behaving just like it was before. That's awfully interesting. So if it's laying down on a table, I think that's how they maybe originally made this model, and that's why it's looking like this. But let's say you wanted to change it. You can literally use the proper angles to be able to make this position properly. So let's say I want it to stand up. I actually can delete all this and hit 90, and then voila, I've got it standing up just like I would expect it. And let's say I want it to be rotated towards me, I can hit 90 again. And if I want it to be turning backwards, I just hit this minus sign and it can go back and forth. It's actually really useful, especially if you're trying to get something angled specifically. Now, I think that when they created this was on a little bit of a tilt, so it's awfully interesting to see it tilted to the side or tilted a little bit forward. And so you can also use the presets to move it back to where it was. And that's something else to show you, is here's a ton of presets. They have a ton that you can use. It's really great stuff. So I would definitely encourage you to explore. Here we can go ahead and drop it. If you're into furries or maybe Teen Wolf, maybe this preset would actually be useful. Let's go ahead and use here's maybe a Spider-Man one or a spy. Let's see here. Army crawl. That's definitely a Spider-Man pose for sure. And you can do different scenes. Really interesting scenes. Or different poses for different scenes. Despair. Ow, my back. That's a Spider-Man reference there. Spider-Man 2 there. And yeah, just a ton of really great scenes. Here's fighting. Here's being knocked out. Here's the other person. Here's a jumping pose. So a lot of really cool stuff here. So imagine if you're trying to make a video game and you just don't know how to make the specific scene or position. So these become really useful. Let's go back out and let's take a look at some of the other objects. So I'm going to tap away, and I could go on for days just showing how this works. So you get a lot of different props or objects, and they are really detailed. Now I think a lot of these originally came from Sketchfab, but let's we can even open this a little bit more to get a better view. Let's do a Lamborghini. Look at that. Lamborghini's really nice. Let's see. Let's try and delete that. Let's add another one. Here's a more normal car. Some of these scenes, you'll be surprised, actually have stuff on the inside. Now, of course, this guy's on the inside, unintentionally. Let's see if I can move this. I can actually, one other thing that's really nice is you can actually tap on these and drag these arrows so you can be able to position as you wish. I think I might have already mentioned that. Then there is, let's see here, you can do a bunch of different objects or a bunch of different models in case you want to do like an actual walking everyday kind of scene. You can lock, like I was saying. So let's say I'm already moving this car, but now the person is actually locked in place. So unlock, drop this, I'll lock this car, there we go, really nice. We'll go ahead and unlock it. I can hit duplicate, which is really nice. When you duplicate, it actually will duplicate right in the same position. And then you can move it and do something like this. Or let's say you want to make a wider car, you can do that. You can duplicate a ton. In fact, every scene can handle about 10,000 objects. And I know because I've actually been the one to push it. To based on some of the other scenes you're actually I'll be happy to show that in this video. So I think that you'll experience just a lot more fun when you get into the app yourself and be able to explore. Here's the lighting. There's 3 different lighting objects. There's the directional light, which you see right here. You can then adjust the lighting as you wish here. Then there's the spotlight. This is a point light right here. I'm going to add the spotlight just in a moment. I'll delete this one actually and open up the spotlight. So the spotlight's really nice for those dramatic scenes that you want to do. Maybe you want to have someone being interrogated. You can move it in the space easily. Look at that, it's pretty cool. You can even do that ghostly Halloween style spotlight if you want, and do it just on this person. What's cool too is, let's say you get an object and you go ahead and you put like a cone here, and you take the cone. Let's see, where is the cone? There it is. We go ahead and take the cone, and you can actually take this cone and the spotlight. Let's go ahead and rotate it to be just at 0 for everything. Okay, and look at that, that's an actual direction. So let's say I want to get this to show at 90, so I'll delete this. And let's hit the minus sign, so now it's the opposite direction. And now it's facing the same direction as the cone. Let's say we pay attention to the position. So let's make this really easy and just put this right in the middle. Actually, we won't do that low in the middle. We'll keep it at 10. And then we'll move this to the center. And we'll move this to the center also. Okay, and we'll just have to move our friend here. And then we'll move this also to the center. And we'll move this to 10. So now, let's say I want to make this cone a spotlight. That way it looks like a physical object. All I have to do is hit the scale option, and I can literally just scale it down, and voila. Now, this was actually a cool thing I learned from another user, is you can actually duplicate this, move the spotlight down, and have it rotate upward. So we'll hit 0 on this, and let's say hit 90. I could have also done it by hitting the plus and minus, and then I'll leave that there. And now it looks like it's a spotlight. It actually looks like a spotlight. Now, this is the cool part. Let's go to layers, and here's our spotlight, here's our other spotlight, and then here is our cone. Let's group them all together, and then we can even rename that to be light, and then open up this group and then highlight the bottom one and hide it. And now, not only does it look like a light, it behaves like a light. That is pretty cool. And then, whenever I'm using this, I can actually rotate this and make this look like a proper light. Super, super cool. So, thank you. I'll put the user in the description in case they want to be recognized for it. But that is really cool. And now, I've got a spotlight for my car here. Little clipping into the ground. Look at that, pretty cool. If I want to make an actual car, I could do that. I can make a duplication of that, put that over here, and voila. That is too cool, too cool. All right, let's show you the other object. I don't know if I need to show you this, but I'm just showing it to you. This is just a spotlight. Now, I used this once to go ahead, and I'll show you how I used it. I basically was making a mech, and I put this spotlight, or well, the dot light, into the eye of that mech, and it basically lit up the eye. Very cool. But you can literally change the settings here, like the brightness. You can change the radius. You can change the color of the light too. So I love being able to make some cool, unique lighting. Let's say we go ahead and use pink lighting. We'll make the brightness really strong. We'll move this back. Oh my goodness, that is super strong. Just a moment here. All right, let's see here. I think this video is more like an explore video, I realized. So let's change that brightness a little bit. We can even change the radius. You can see how it's affecting there. We'll change that brightness there to be more subtle. Let's do a duplicate, okay? And we'll move it right here. Now, if you ever need to reset in a space, you can always double tap on an object, and then you'll be able, the whole scene will center around that object. So if I wanted to center around this car, it will reset. All right, so if you notice here too, we can actually change this color. And this is what I love to do with the lighting. So I love changing the color a little bit. In fact, let's make this lighting a little bit more dramatic by changing the view's lighting to a different time of day. Now look at that. When you have the other lighting, think of lighting like water spills into a space. And if it has, this is what I learned about lighting recently. If it has a space that is pretty open, it's just going to go everywhere. But if it's pretty controlled, then you can correct where that lighting is going to go. So you'll notice that I was able to control the lighting by changing the background light and reducing that so that it wasn't taking over. And then I have these two dot lights that are now much more controlled. Now, I understand how they behave, so I understand that really if I don't want them to get flooded out, then I just need to control some of the other lighting. So reducing the amount of light actually works quite well in how you're trying to light a situation. So there's that scene. That looks really dynamic. Let's see what it looks like if it's a red maybe. We'll select red here, and voila. Just like a police scene. Let's do a blue, or no, rather a green. So that's cool. Kind of alien, or rather than alien, maybe even just kind of high tech. So that's pretty cool. And look at that. You can see all those sharp highlights that look really good on this model. Okay, so I've shown you quite a bit about Magic Poser, and I didn't show you really much about these objects. And this is my favorite part about Magic Poser is these props, these geometric props. So I'm putting in a cube right into the center space. I'm going to drop it to the ground, and I can actually scale it. So I can scale it. I can use the dial, this scale on the bottom. I can drag and drop the X and Y on XYZ axis. I can go ahead and move it different directions. I can move it on the blue axis, I can drop it again, and I can really do anything I want with this. Now, I can make full-on cities with this. In fact, I'll go ahead and stop with this scene and go right to some of the stuff that I've created. In fact, let's take a quick detour and take a look at this scene I downloaded. That's exactly what this person did, is they took the cube and then the cylinder and made a bench, as you can see right here. They made covering, and this is actually a half circle that they just expanded. And then they also even have a sign. Pretty cool. And it's interesting, they could have used a cylinder, but instead they used a half circle to be able to make that. Let's take a look. And now this is an object here that was imported from the store, or not the store, but it's just their library of objects. And then I think I can tell that this is actually an isometric view. So we can even reset this view right here down to 15. Here's 45. This looks a little more normal. It behaves normally. Oh, that's interesting. They made smoke with the crescent object. That's really clever. And then they have, I guess, something that looks like a cigar. But these are some anime objects. Now, with the anime objects, you can't morph their bodies to be strong, skinny, or fat. You only can do that with the new custom models, the new female, male models. But let's just play with this light here, and we'll change this. There you go. Yeah, it was interesting to see the light on that manga model right down here. Let's go back to some of these other scenes. Thanks for that detour. So this is a recent scene I just created. It's a previous video. So I made all of this off of, in fact, everything here was done by just the cube. I actually used the cube to make even this little detail on this roof. Each one of these, even though it's a full-on grouped object, each one of these is a cube that was extended, angled, and then made this texture. Even these beams, I made these beams all from cubes. All the cinder block, all the mortar that goes inside of it, the door, of course, the signs in the front, even this archway. This is why I love the cubes and the geometric shapes. Each one of these archways is a cube that's been made into a curve. So just watch my previous video to just watch to see how that was made. But you can get these intricate details, and this is why it's worth learning how to do this and putting it together. And I'd say that this is the fastest and most useful 3D modeling tool, especially on the iPad. Let's go to another scene. Now, I have a much more expansive scene that I've created. I'll show you that last. But let's use, this is my first scene that I created. This was on the previous Magic Poser. So I actually made all of this on the previous Magic Poser. It's actually moving quite fast because I didn't use nearly as many objects. There's a little self-insert guy for myself there. And looks like, yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I even made an apartment door, an apartment room. So in the back here, you can actually get to the back of the apartment. And then this is the window. You can actually delete this window and see right outside. I'll just put the undo to put it back. And yeah, pretty cool. You can, now this was inspired from a wallpaper, an app that, no, it's not an app, but an artist that I found on Twitter. He or she, I guess, did the background as a video game background, and I liked it so much that I wanted to recreate it. And you can even see some of the detail that I added to the alleyway here as well. So it's cool. But let's go back and continue to explore. Here is a scene that I put a lot of detail in here. So this is a store, pretty cool. So that is a box right there. Here's the shopping, it's like a convenience store. I even on the other side made some storage shelves, and you could probably tell this is dragging along a little bit more because this is actually close to the 10,000 object limit, because it took a lot of objects just to make the side of the store. And not just that, but even these right here, I don't know what to call them, wireframes, required a lot of objects as well. You can even see I made some of these bases come almost like a pack to be able to duplicate and recreate it. And so you can see right there, that's why it's behaving that way. So let's go back to the open scene. I even made a subway station. So this is really cool. The train tracks, even the train tracks have a lot of detail. Right there, you can see how each of it was made. Here's the whole scene. Here's the lighting setup. Now that I learned how to make spotlights, I can actually take these cones and then make a spotlight directly facing it now. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and go to another scene here. Here, this one, actually, I'm surprised it doesn't take as much to rotate in the scene, but I actually made trees and grass in the scene. Just wanted to see what it would look like, see if it was able to be done. This tree is pretty, like I custom made this tree with some other objects. I used a stump here and also this tropical plant to put it upside down. Before, in the old Magic Poser, you had to do stuff like this, but now in the new one, you can even take different shapes and make duplicates however you want. So let's take a look at that more closely. So what I did is I took a circle, or sphere, not a circle, but a sphere, and I flattened it out, made it elongate, and to make those leaves, and I put a cylinder as the stem of the leaf, and then I made the cylinder as the stem of the leaf, and then I made also the cylinder as the base of the tree, and the stems, and the branches. Now, they do have rocks of different types, so pretty cool. And these are the kind of stuff that you can import OBJ or export OBJ, and they lose their texture. And then I made some of this. Now, when you do OBJ, you lose the coloring as well because it counts as a texture. And there is a stair model right here, so that's pretty cool. And then I was able to make all of this together. So imagine this is a mountain shrine somewhere in Japan, maybe. So there we go. Just imagining what it might look like to look off onto the sunset from this angle. So pretty cool. Let's take a look at some of these other bigger ones. Now let's do this one. This is a scene I'm working on currently. It's Ichijoji Station, and I think this is the proper scene. Yeah, this looks like it's it. And I've actually done quite a bit in the scene. You'll even notice that here it is. This is the whole scene in detail. And there's some, because it's not finished, it's a work in progress, a whip. I wasn't planning on showing all of it, but I just wanted you to see what's really capable. Here's an actual scene based on a real life location. So this is it right here. I'm just trying to get it angled, and I might just show what it looks like on the actual Google Earth or Google Maps. There's even more detail here. Here's another angle from the scene. So these are all based on real life locations. So this is really fun thing because I can't go to Japan. I don't have the resources at the current moment. I'd like to in the future, but you know what? Based on imagery and video, I was able to recreate this area. And I could have an anime character or manga character, so basically be able to run around through the scene as if I'd actually been there. There's the stairs down, and so there's some people talking. There's McDonald's. Back to where we were. Even the lighting in the McDonald's is cool. Real life locations. And so I'm going to continue to make more on this as I go through Magic Poser. Now here's my big scene, and you can make even more in Magic Poser. Look at this huge scene. It's still a work in progress, as you could tell, but I've got all of the spacing. So here you have, just look at that. Now, yeah, so here you have it, just like this incredible detailed scene. I'm realizing there's actually not a lot of objects in here, which means I have so much more space to work on with this. So this is actually really fun. Let's take a look at one more scene. I forgot about this one, and that is this Mech Scene that I'm currently still working on. This is based on the Armored Core games, and so I'm actually excited about this one. Yet there's still a lot more I have to do. I'm kind of lazy, so I haven't built out the legs yet. But you can see there is a ton of stuff you can do. You can literally use this as your own digital gunpla. You have to make everything from scratch, yes, or maybe buy it from someone else that's ambitious enough, maybe myself, that you can just pose it however you want. You literally can pose all of these grouped objects. And as you can see here, these are definitely grouped. So you can pose the arms, you can do different scenes, you can have it holding a gun, and then let's make a mech space fighter. In fact, I think I'm going to go to a scene where it has a lot more detail. So you can see I'm working on the legs here, right here. That's what that is, but this is the scene itself. So you can get really down to small details, and you can see like the scope and scale of how big these scenes can get. Just imagine, it becomes really exciting to do this Magic Poser stuff with these Magic Poser scenes with full-on detailed scenes. And then here's the head. I can unlock this and rotate it up and down. You can do rotating left and right, and yeah, so some of it's clipping into the other stuff. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. Yeah, so there is a walkthrough of Magic Poser. It might have been a little bit longer than a quick video, but hopefully in post editing I can make this a little bit shorter of a video. And let me know if you have any questions. What other kind of videos would you like to see? I'm super excited to be showing this off finally, now that the development team has made it available for everybody, and really excited about showing more and teaching more on what you can do with this incredible tool.